following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.
Welcome to Speak Up. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and today we have a Senate candidate from, what district is that?
It's District 19, Hampstead, Windham, and Derry.
Regina Birdsell, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Actually, Honorable Regina Birdsell.
This is representative. I'm still rep.
I'm the Honorable. Right, we'll see. Welcome to the show. I'm glad that you made it. And is this your third term?
No, it's actually my second.
Second term?
4 years.
Okay, and you've served in the House for 2010 through?
2014.
Right.
We missed you in the House.
I tried. I tried.
We miss a lot of people in the House.
We got kind of snookered, I think, and that's all right. We're running for the Senate myself, so.
Good.
How's it going?
It's going well. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. I've started my door-to-doors in Derry, and I'm getting I got the endorsement from the chair of the Derry Council, Mark Osborne.
Wow.
He went door-to-door with me on Saturday, and I got a lot of positive feedback, so I'm going to drag him anytime I can out. He's doing a lot of good work he's chair of the council, so he was able, last year, they didn't increase taxes in Derry, because Derry has one of the highest property taxes in the state. They were able not to increase the taxes last year, and this year they actually got him a little bit of a cut, and they're going to try and do it again next year. So he's working hard in Derry, and it's starting to be known. So he's gotten I've gotten some really good feedback when we've been doing door-to-doors. We've had a few people unhappy. They refused to admit that the taxes did go down a little, because they're so high.
Right.
But other than that, he's been a real asset to me.
How about the county budget?
We did the county budget, and it went up. Every year it goes up a little bit.
Well, when 2010 when I was in there, we kept it level. We didn't increase it, which was
we brought it down in 2010.
Right, and
I think
now in our county it went up 9%.
I heard. I read Steve Valancourt's.
How does that help the middle class?
It doesn't.
You know, that and the gas tax. How does that help?
Well, it doesn't. And the problem I have, there's two things I have a problem with the gas tax. And I hate to say it, but it's our senator that initiated it. One, if they stopped diverting a lot of the money from the gas tax we're already paying to other organizations or departments, then we would have the money to finish the roads that we need. The other thing is they based it, from the arguments I heard, they based it on the fact that people only drive 10,000 miles a year. It's only X amount of dollars.
Not this guy.
That's hogwash.
I use it for gas for my business.
Well, exactly. My husband drives a minimum of 25,000 a year. Ugh. So, it's going to hit us hard. And now I hear Senator Shaheen is starting to talk about increasing the federal gas tax by 12 cents.
It's never enough.
I know.
It's never enough. And I think that's, a lot of people are kind of, they just don't know where to turn. Is this why you're running?
Yeah, I'm actually running. I'd like to try and be an additional fiscal. I have some unquestioned fiscal conservative cred, and I'd like to bring more of that to the Senate. That's why I'm running. And seeing some of the things that have passed in the Senate, I think we need a little bit more balance, and that's why I'm running.
It's interesting that, in the last 6 months, we're hearing we got Medicaid expansion.
Right.
It sounds nice, but Medicaid expansion is basically welfare expansion. You're increasing the welfare base in New Hampshire.
Right.
Instead of expanding jobs.
Well, the problem with Medicaid expansion, and I was a loudmouth on this piece. I even spoke, because I'm a Rockingham County chair, I have a seat at the state committee meetings. And I spoke up about the Medicaid expansion and how it's going to affect the legislature in the future. And what they're doing is, yes, they're expanding the role. They're taking people that are already getting company-paid insurance and getting them off the company-paid insurance and putting them on the Medicaid expansion. So they are expanding that piece of it. And then what's going to happen is this bill, yes, it's going to be covered for maybe 2.5, 3 years. For the feds are going to.
Is there a guarantee of that?
No, because what's going to happen is, and Paul Ryan, when he came in the winter, said he recommended, of course, no senator was there. He recommended not passing Medicaid expansion because Democrats and Republicans are already starting to pull money out of Medicaid. So the money may not even be there for the next 3 years. So what's going to happen in 3 years, 2.5, let's say we get the money for the full period, then it sunsets. What legislator is going to vote? We've got two choices. We're either going to vote to continue, and then it's going to be added to the taxpayer. It's going to be the taxpayer's burden to finish paying for this, or we're going to have to vote. Somebody's going to put in a bill to continue it, and we're going to have to vote to either kick all these people on or continue and tax people.
It's designed to tie that right, and so who was it? One of the senators said that if we don't have the courage back, then to get rid of it, then we might as well all just give up. I don't even think he was that positive. However, if they had the courage not to vote for it in the first place,
true,
things would be a lot better. Are you going to vote if you become a senator to get rid of this or make it sunset?
Absolutely.
It will increase taxes.
Yes.
We have the gas tax. We have the county tax. We have pensions. We have unfunded liabilities. There are all kinds of issues that are coming up that is going to overwhelm the taxpayers here in New Hampshire. How does that attract businesses to New Hampshire? If they see all these liabilities, all these taxes, all these regulations, how does that help businesses? How does that help the middle class?
Well, it really doesn't. And, you're talking about the retirement, the retirement system. It's burgeoning to the point where within the next 10 years, we are going to be running out of money. And where are we going to get that money? We have to, and the courts have already decided that all of those individuals that are in the pension plan at this point, we cannot take it away. So we have to, any new hires, we have to make sure that any new hires are going to be covered under a defined, a 401k plan. And we need to stop the bleeding at some point. And that's going to be a huge fight. And frankly,
why is that going to be a fight, though, if it makes fiscal sense to New Hampshire taxpayers?
Because you're going to have people who are in the system who are going to be fighting that they want to continue. And I don't understand why they would, as long as people that are under it are covered by the pension plan now, are continue it.
Right. Keep the promises that were made.
Keep the promises that were made. And in the beginning, I wasn't, when I first got voted in, I didn't I didn't agree with that. You know, I thought because as a member of Raytheon, they cut my pension off at 10 years. I was vested, so I get some sort of a pension. But after 10, as of that point, I was on a 401k plan. But I've come to the realization, especially with all of the veteran issues that are coming up, and how I'm hearing the argument that the military has been promised their care, their retirement benefits, and the federal Congress is taking a lot of that away. It has impacted my sister. So I've come to the realization that, yes, they were promised it, they deserve it. But people coming in now should be given a different promise.
They need a heads up. You know, we're looking at Detroit, and they're just the first of many, from what I understand, in the near future that are really struggling with these underfunded liabilities. When I saw the debt way back when, in 2010 through 12, we had some people come in and talk with the mayor. Lozo came in, and she talked about the unfunded liabilities. And I was scratching my head. How did this happen? And there were a lot of nice promises made, and maybe some overpromises that, you know, we were really generous. But now times are tough. If you resist cutting and being a little more responsible and cutting for the new hires, then you're basically telling the taxpayers we really don't care.
Right.
You know, and so there's got to be some kind of compromise. Now, I know we had a real struggle with right to work. I think you were on the right to work side.
I was.
And I remember getting my tire slashes and having to go through the gauntlet.
I remember that, and we took up a...
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is, it didn't deter me. It just made me angry. Yeah. And because, you know, it can't be one-sided. You have to work with people. Right. And one of the other issues that it really troubles me, that if you're going to be a closed shop, you're just saying to other companies, don't even bother looking at New Hampshire business. If you're not going to be open to everybody.
Well, you know, when you think about, if you look at some of the decisions that have been made over the past couple of weeks by the Supreme Court is now looking at this not as a freedom of association. So it's a freedom of association. So they're now looking at the unions as requiring you to join, where now the Supreme Court is saying, well, wait a minute, you know, and they started with the part-time home health care workers. And I'm sure it's going to move along. But when you see that the Supreme Court is starting to look at it and go, wait a minute, you know, it's going a little too far, I think we're going to see changes down the road. But yes, right to work would help a great deal in bringing manufacturing, and especially because we've lost a lot of the manufacturing jobs. Right. And I know we've lost some businesses that would have come into New Hampshire because of right to work.
Right. I'm on the stump, and I'm just talking to people, and some of these industries, you know, high-tech industries that we're thinking about relocating, they were telling my constituents that we weren't even considering New Hampshire, right? Which is sad. And then, of course, we have all our college graduates. They graduate, they get educated, you know, and they leave the state. Wow. Because the work's not here. We have to start wanting to attract businesses here. But if you overregulate, if you increase the tax burden, what's the incentive to come to New Hampshire? There is none. And when you look at some of the things that were passed or tried to pass this session, some of them didn't get through the Senate. The paint tax. Right. You know, and it's interesting to me that before you know it, you know, you tax paint, you tax this, you tax that. Before you know it, we have a sales tax, because that's basically what it was a sales tax for paint. One item at a time. And exactly. That's how the camel gets his nose in the tent. So, yeah, I see there's some changes that definitely need to be done. What are some of the big concerns you're hearing from your constituents, though, when you're out there knocking on the doors? Right now, because I'm knocking on doors in Derry, I'm finding
Property taxes. Again, they're one of the highest. And the sad part is a lot of these people are retired.
Right.
So they have no way of increasing their income. Many of them are talking about having to move because they can't afford the taxes. They've got the house paid off, but they can't afford the taxes. So there's not a lot that we can do as state legislators. What we can do is we can make the environment better to bring in businesses, small businesses,
right.
medium-sized businesses, to expand the tax base. And hopefully at that point, the towns will use that to reduce the property taxes. If you have the right town council, if you have the right selectmen in there, it works just like it is. They have a really good town council in there, Republicans and Democrats. They cut their taxes. Squishy, but they did it.
It can be done.
Exactly.
What about overregulation? It seems to me that when you have rules on top of rules that have the effect of law and punitive powers to fine you if you break these rules, which seem to be made just for the pleasure of bringing more revenue to the state, that makes businesses say, no, thank you, I don't need that.
Well, I spoke to a small business in Derry again, and it's a food retail. And what they did, they just opened just over a year ago. And they did a lot of things on their own, you know, the painting. They had the outside painted, they paid someone to do it. But the inside, well, the state, they had family friends come in and paint the inside. Well, the state found out, and they brought someone in to say, you need to pay these people workers' comp. You need to pay their workers' comp. They said, wait a minute, they're friends, they're family. It doesn't matter. That's crazy regulations.
That's crazy.
You would never do that if they were in your house. Well, maybe they would, I don't know, but.
It might come to that, but again, where is liberty? Where is liberty when it comes to issues like that? What are you, nuts? I got to pay these people my workers' comp? That scares the crap out of me. And I'm sorry for saying the word crap, but that does. That's horrible. And so what did they do? Did they close shop, or are they continuing to do it? Or
well, they got it done. I don't know whether they didn't tell me whether they paid the workers' comp. I'm presuming they did, because they were so intent. And then what happened is they found out, because New Hampshire's rules and regulations are a little bit here, a little bit there. They wound up having to go up to Concord every other day or so to get things straightened out. My idea is, okay, let's sit down with DRED, and you have, let's say, fast food restaurant, which is what they have, fast food restaurant. Let's sit down with DRED and say, okay, what is everything that this fast food restaurant has to do to open shop, and put together a brochure, put together a checklist, so they can do it all at one time, or at least have a checklist to know what needs to be done, instead of being told, oh, you need to do this. Well, I'll be up in Concord. Oh, we need to do this. I got to go back up to Concord. No, let's make it easier for these small business owners.
Why not? Let's get rid of some of these stupid rules.
Well, let's start with paving the way for them to find where these rules are.
Yeah, it seems to me, I was talking to Spec Bowers way back when we were talking about the haircutting situation. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And it takes more training to cut hair in New Hampshire than to fly a plane. That's nuts. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Why? Is it for licensing? Why do we have to go through such a rigorous? I mean, when you get your hair cut, I don't know. I don't get it. But
I don't know. I kind of like my hairdresser.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But you have a free market. If you didn't, you could go to a different hairdresser.
Right.
But he was pointing out that New Hampshire is as regulated as California, and I found that to be rather remarkable for him to make such a statement. I've asked around, and sure enough, that's why a lot of businesses do not want to come here. It's over-regulated.
True, and I think it seems to be getting worse and worse. And part of the issue, I'm sure, is DES. They have a lot of regulations that they need to, or they implement. And part of the issue is rulemaking, giving the departments rulemaking authority,
which have the effect of law.
And I know that when we were in 2011 and 2012, we tried pulling back on some of those rulemaking authority. But of course, as soon as you guys left, the others came in and started putting them back.
Yeah, one of the big ones, when we actually had it on the ballot, and it had to do with the courts, and that was CA 26, and it didn't pass with the people because nobody knew what it was about. The Bar Association came out against it, but in effect, it basically said that the Supreme Court justice shall have the rulemaking authority or administrative authority for the courts.
Right.
No brainer. But what wasn't on the ballot was the fact that in such promulgated rules shall have the effect of law. And so judges are making laws, in effect.
And it wasn't in plain speak. And,
right.
You know, we had a rep come into election law committee, which is where I sit, and she wanted a bill. It didn't pass because it's very difficult to try and put. She wanted all our warrant articles in plain speak, which makes sense. And Democrats and Republicans in our committee said, "You're right. We need to do that."
Right.
But they can't.
And what's interesting, we had an attorney just sitting in the audience. Well, we don't have a big audience here, obviously. But, you know, he said, not for nothing, Rep, that there are more rules of the court than there are statutes. And there are more volumes.
Right.
How is anybody to know this? And how does that serve justice? And then there's that beautiful rule, Rule 1.2 of the courts. It's a beautiful rule. In the interest of justice, waiver of rules. It's remarkable.
Well, we do that in the House too, but we have to vote on it.
Yeah, the point is, it's just getting so convoluted, so complicated.
If you don't like the rule, we'll just waive it.
It needs to be readdressed because the interest of justice is not being served, and of course, people are getting hurt in the process. I'm hearing it all the time, as far as some of the injustices that are happening in our family courts. And, a lot of people already know about that issue that watch this show. Common Core, that seems to be, a lot of people are afraid to speak out against it that are in the schools. I can tell by their body language, but they don't want to speak against it. But they're not exactly for it either. And I'm talking about teachers.
Right.
I'll directly ask a math teacher. So what do you think about Common Core? Well, and I get that. And immediately I know there's a problem.
Right.
Well,
you know that there's a problem when the teachers union in New York City, or New York State, I guess, is speaking vehemently against it. So yeah, there's probably an issue. In fact, I was speaking with someone on the budget committee yesterday in our town who's very knowledgeable about Common Core, and I found there's a big difference between they say it's local controlled, but the curriculum is locally based, but all the testing is from national and Bill Gates Foundation. So
that's cronyism.
And they change. Apparently, they change the testing periodically, so the teachers don't know what to teach to. Right. So
local control. I keep going back to, and I'll be bringing this up until something's done about it. But that book, 16 Minutes, page 313, where it was required reading. It was part of the Common Core curriculum, something to that effect in Guilford, New Hampshire. The father spoke out against it. Basically, anti-religious rape going on in the. I couldn't read it on the show. I wouldn't read it on the show. However, it was required reading. So a father speaks out, gets arrested because he goes over in 1 minute time. That's not local control. That, you know what I'm saying? That whole issue was just nuts.
I did not even know that there was a time limit.
2 minutes in a school board?
Right. And
It's
they
crazy.
wouldn't even, I was down in the Outer Banks when this was all started brewing up. And I remember watching him trying to read the page, and they were like, no, we can't. Well, and he said, if I can't read this to you, what makes you think my daughter should be reading it?
Right.
So
maybe we should, when we get elected, we should say, okay, in the Senate, let's just take a look at what we're forcing our children to read.
But that's not local control. What we should be doing is trying to influence our schools and our school boards.
But if we can't read it in the Senate, I wouldn't read it in the Senate, is what I'm getting at. It would be embarrassing. And it just, that whole, it was a nightmare. So Common Core, I sat on the education and manufacturing of engineers for a very short time.
Right.
Senator Molly Kelly, is it? Or Kelly Molly?
Molly Kelly.
She was the chair, very nice, very gracious. And one of the things that we learned very quickly was the fact that manufacturers were ready to hire right out of high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they want to hire kids that can do simple arithmetic. They'll train them to go to college and to do the advanced math later on.
Right.
But what's happening is the kids aren't learning simple arithmetic, and Common Core is just the opposite. I watched the panel in Hollis in Brookline, and they were talking about how that, yes, we're getting the kids ready for college. Well, not all the kids are going to college. Some kids are graduating high school and want to be work ready, and we're not serving their needs because they're not able to do simple math, and they're not able to go into a manufacturing
Right.
career.
There have been, I know when I was working, I worked for Raytheon for a number of years in the HR field, and we worked diligently and we were in the semiconductor industry. We worked diligently with some of the community colleges to put together a program, a 2-year program, or a year program, depending on what you were studying, to just be trained to work in the clean rooms with what they needed to be done. And I know, and I believe Senator Roush has actually done the same thing with a school in New Hampshire. And that can be done. You know, if you get a company that has a specific need, then we should be able to work with the high school to develop a program, a feeder program for that particular company. It's been done. It's been done on the community college level. It can certainly be done in the vocational schools.
And that's how we retain good quality workers here in New Hampshire.
Right.
Just let's start catering to their needs instead of watching them leave it to other states and find jobs elsewhere.
My stepdaughter did it. She graduated in 2008 from Plymouth State, and within 2 years she was gone to Chicago. Now they're back, but now they're in Cambridge.
Right.
So, you know, they're not working in New Hampshire. They want to get back.
How can people find out more about your campaign?
I have a website. It's regina4nh.com. And I'm on Facebook at Regina for New Hampshire NH Senate.
Okay. And is there a phone number, or it's on the website?
It's on the website.
Okay.
And it's on my Facebook page.
And it's for Hampstead, Derry?
Hampstead, Windham, and Derry.
Quite an area. Right. That's right.
I guess I'm lucky. I only have 3 towns.
Yeah.
Somebody said, "That's all you have?"
Yeah, I'm Nashua, Hollis, Brookline, Mason, Ringe. I think there's another one.
Oops.
Yeah.
That's why I only have 3.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me,
All right.
Kevin.
And that's it for now for Speak Up. If you want to get in touch with Regina, go to her website, and I wholeheartedly endorse her as a former state rep and a Senate candidate. I think you've got a good rep in the Senate here, and New Hampshire would do really well. Until next week. If you would like to be a guest on Speak Up, please contact me at speakupnh@gmail.com. We'll help you be heard. Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas.
dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.